Hello, welcome back. A Tone Poet video after quite some time. Yeah, I know. And we talk today about the tone poet, the most iconic tone poet, for an obvious reason. We get into that a little later. We talk about the Chet Baker Sings once more, but this time a little different, because luckily I can compare it against the original 10-inch original and the first 12-inch reissue on the Pacific Jazz label. And yeah, let's see what happens, what is the outcome of it. Yeah, as I said, long time no Tone Poet video on my channel, at least. And the reason for that was that I was a little fatigued of just getting into the record and telling you in general, yeah, that is a good sounding, great sounding, wonderful release. But how good, how great, I couldn't say, because I cannot compare it to anything. And so now, thanks to the OBC, I have an almost unlimited access to Blue Note and related label originals, very early reissues, and then of course it is a nice touch to it, and for me way easier to see where we are at with this reissue. Of course, always, and don't let me state that every time, always, in my opinion, on my equipment, right? That's of course important and goes for those kind of videos all the time, but let me state it here once and for all. And especially after this Blue Note stream we did together with several guests, amongst them Dave Parsons and of course Thomas Busk, who played those records, I got aware of a few things. As he put up numerous Blue Note records at the OBC shop, I was aware that they are in a way still reachable, that they are not that crazy expensive in many cases, that they are still out there, and that also those early reissues are sometimes a very interesting thing to get into. So I wanna do this from now on. I will usually focus on newer tone poetry or new tone poet releases. Maybe I get back into some of those really hot titles. We will see. But usually I will concentrate on the new releases and compare them to their original counterpart and or very early reissue. But as I said, today we get into the Chet Baker Sings, numerous videos, but I personally, they're probably out there, I haven't seen any comparisons against the originals so far, and let's do it today. What I did was, first I listened to the real original, the 10-inch, wonderful record from 1954, quite something. Not a perfect copy, but hey, this is of course an icon. And to the 1956 reissue, where we also have the cover art that they used at the Tone Poet re-release. Okay, first I listened to the 10-inch, then I compared it to this release, the Pacific Jazz 1222, and it was immediately clear that the 12-inch do sound better than the 10-inch. There was no... that was immediately clear. And so then I started to compare the reissue, the early reissue, against the Tone Poet. Wait, I show you the record, the vinyl, and the label. So here you can see the label of the, let's call it, original reissue, and the Tone Poet, and they did a really good job here. They are quite similar, which is a thing I really do like. So what first was obvious, that the cut of the Tone Poet is louder. So I had to adjust it, I did it, then started again, listened to one song, the first song of the early reissue, and compared it to the Tone Poet reissue, the Tone Poet release. And what was obvious with the first track goes throughout the whole record. When it starts and you compare, I say, oh wow, they are similar, except for the louder mix, really similar. Wow, that's interesting and surprising how close, really close they are. But that changes when Chet Baker starts to sing after 30, 40, whatever seconds. Then, because first I listened to the early one and then to the Tone Poet, and when I listened to the Tone Poet, I said, oh, what? Because the voice of Chet Baker is so different on the Tone Poet that this is really worth mentioning. And I do not have a great explanation for it. I just can state the fact that the voice of Chet Baker on the Tone Poet has way less mid-range. Big difference in my opinion. Big difference on the scale of things. He doesn't sound like Mickey Mouse, I know. But it's really obvious. The voice of Chet Baker is way more high-pitched on the Tone Poet than on the early reissue. And that was quite interesting. And also on the 10-inch, you don't have this high-pitched voice. And this, in my opinion, comes through the mid-range. We have way more mid-range at Chet Baker's voice than as it is on the Tone Poet. Really interesting, really surprising. I have no explanation for it. And I have, by the way, I have two versions. I have two versions of the early Pacific release here. So both, on both it's the same. Really interesting, really surprising. And if you consider that due to the hype of the Chet Baker Sings Tone Poet, the price has been higher, way higher than the highest ever sold version of the very early reissue, the 1956, which is quite worth mentioning. And yeah, what do I like more? As I said, in general, they are very similar. The voice on the early one I do prefer. It's softer. It's, you know, I really like the way he sings there. Also on the Tone Poet, I love it. But on the early Pacific, wow. You know, he has this, in German we call it Schmelz. He has this softness all of a sudden. He doesn't have at the Tone Poet, which really big surprise, really interesting. And yeah, I otherwise not a big difference, but still a little game changer, because the singing of Chet Baker on this album, yeah, that's the essence in a way. That's what makes this one so special for many of us, at least for me. So that was quite an interesting first result for these kind of videos. I will go on with them. I will now start to compare the new batch with originals and early pressings, and see. I haven't done that yet. See what's the outcome there. And what I also will do, I will do a comparison of the Black Sabbath from the Vinyl Me Please in very short time. So let's see how they are keeping up And yeah, I hope you are interested in these kind of videos. Let's go on like this. Okay. Thank you for your time and see you on the next one. Bye.